This week on The Droids, we're talking about the news coming out that Taika Waititi will direct a feature-length theatrical release of Star Wars. Leslye Headland is getting her own series, and Baby Yodas are starting to arrive stateside. How has that changed the lives of several droids? All that and more on The Droids.
No, not this one.
Welcome back to The Droids. You're looking for a Star Wars podcast, and we've had a lot of time together, The Droids, lately. We've been doing some live shows, we've been having some fun, and you know what? It feels nice to get back to maybe a little regular programming. We've done the Duel of the Fates, our 6-hour epic.
So where we left off, Ray and Kylo
I'm very excited.
got in the same room
Previously
together.
Very
on The Droids.
excited for part 7.
But we're back to a regular episode, and excited to talk about some news, because we've got some news in these quarantine times and some things to look forward to whenever this is all over. I think before we begin, though, I'd like to know how everyone's lives have changed with the introduction of their actual Baby Yoda in person.
So I don't know if it's, I can ascertain that it's compounded by the current world situation, but it was the amount of joy that it brought me upon arrival and
Yes.
then upon sitting on my desk looking at me is monumental.
Yes.
It's become a really big part of my life. It's actually, in all seriousness, it's a much better... Chris was talking about this privately, that it's a much better quality toy than I was expecting. And notably, I think they got the smile just right.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they really...
I'm looking at it right now.
It looks beautiful. And Ryan, please don't listen into my private conversations.
Chris said privately to his girlfriend that...
No, it is. That's the first thing that surprised me, was like how high quality of a toy it is. I think it looks like it's like life size too, correct? Is that?
I mean,
well, we don't
in
know,
as much as anything
really.
fake can
They
be
could
life size.
All Star Wars characters could be giants, Chris.
The weirdest.
It looks about right to the scale on the show. I'd
Yeah.
say maybe a tiny bit smaller.
Take it back. I think the weirdest thing is, so it has like the base of it is full of like beads, so it's like weighted, so it'll like sit up. But the weirdest thing is it has no feet.
It has no feet.
So
It's made to be swaddled. It has no feet. I also found that striking, that they didn't even put like little fabric like floppies on it.
yeah, no, it's just the his little robe is supposed to go down between his little feetsies.
Mattel
do we ever
was
see his
dedicated
feet on
to
the
canon. Exactly, we don't, I believe. And Mattel was dedicated to canon
Oh.
because maybe in season 2 we find out he has no feet.
Oh, that's funny. And he's
Then
just,
all of us are sitting with toys that aren't. There's no verisimilitude.
he's
I don't know.
all floating.
I like your version better, where they're just like, get it out the door, don't put the feet on, we need to get these over.
My boss, I got the feet right
I
here.
think the eyes are really well done.
Yeah.
Of course, we're speaking like for the value. I don't think it was like less than $30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very high quality. The eyes are not just like black, painted black. There's actual like pupils in there too, which is pretty wild.
Oh.
Yeah, a friend of mine asked me where I got it because she wanted to get one for her baby, like a stuffed one for,
For
a
a-
baby, and
for
I
a
was
child,
like, "Well,
yeah.
mine is mine. You can't have mine."
I just don't know what you keep talking about, Ryan, that you also have one, because Baby Yoda's at my apartment. I don't know why you're saying there's other ones.
It's like the class pet. We
Yeah.
just kind of like pass it around.
Yeah.
But you little Yoda would never be a pet, would you? Would you?
Definitely a good May 4th, May 5th surprise, so thank you for getting that
It was
shipped.
a boost.
I'm still convinced that there's something inside of it. Like there's gonna be a surprise. Like it's gonna
Like a soul?
Like one day, it's like eyes are gonna light up or something in conjunction with the show. Like I feel like there's.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Chris.
Yeah.
That would be scary.
Oh, it is. It is also terrifying if you don't expect to see it.
Did you, Mike and Sam? Did you boys get one?
I did not. So when it came up,
Sad.
I wanted to order it, but I also just kind of thought, I was like, I'm not sure how much I love The Mandalorian at that moment, because wasn't it? It was relatively like I liked the show. I thought the show was fantastic.
It was right after episode 4, and you were like, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, if they make a Kana Valley choice, I'm not. I don't know. But I think it was. I was just not sure that it was going to come in and be the quality that you're talking about. I thought that they were like, oh wow, we didn't know this was going to be such a viral sensation. We need to rush this into production. So I kind of was waiting for the one that looked fully plush, because I know the head is still kind of plastic, right, or some sort of rubber.
Yeah, it's like it's rubber. You could it's it's bouncy.
I also thought that
it holds its shape, not like a real baby who have those soft heads.
Well, speaking of real baby, I was thinking I would get a one that was fully plush for my real baby.
Smart.
And so I didn't want to get the rubber one. But then I also thought, I'm like, you know what? I really just want to get from Doc Ondar's and Galaxy's Edge. I want to get a Yoda from there, because that'll be perfect. It won't be Baby Yoda. And I thought, I'll do that when I go in May. And what happened to that point?
Well, we have tickets next week. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Guys,
there's also an
here.
animatronic one coming out in December, which is music to my ears.
Oh, really?
I've never had my own animatronic. Yeah, they put pre-orders up. It's like that one's under $60, which is like a good amount of money. But for an animatronic, you think.
But you prefer. I know you love animatronics, but you prefer that to compare to the Sideshow collectible, which is 1-to-1 scale. Saying they got it 1-to-1, and it's like
that's
it's
the 1-to-1.
Perfect is the way it looks, exactly the same. It's not an animatronic, though.
I mean, I was speaking to a friend about this. Like, if I all of a sudden came into a lot of money, the first order of business would be like ordering 15 Sideshow collectibles things.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so beautiful, and of course they're like top of the line, but it's they're so cost prohibitive. Obviously,
it's $375, but don't worry, monthly installments of $56.25.
I like. That's not too bad when you think about it.
Yeah.
Less than a cell phone.
I think right now is a good time to make a monthly commitment for the next 4 years.
Right.
Wow.
It looks spectacular.
They are so beautiful, but they are so cost prohibitive.
Wow, it does look.
It's like a level of collectorship that I'm not ready to jump into.
Well, I think that's why you have to find the ones.
Glass cases before you do that.
Exactly. It's like, where do I display this? I'd have to change everything about my personality. It's just so hard.
The little detailing on that thing is amazing. I love that they've also Sideshow is also we're just talking about Sideshow now. Has also they know that people aren't reposing a lot of their figures, so then they have those master statues that are just pre-posed and they look so good.
There's one I was cruising around Sideshow Collectibles yesterday after I saw the Yoda, and there's one of Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy that it's like the face work is unbelievable. It's so real that it's almost unsettling, to the point that I was looking at it thinking if I looked at this for too long, would I become a toy? Is this like a monkey's paw thing where I look down and I'm becoming plastic?
Yeah, exactly. It's an Are You Afraid of the Dark?
But Ryan, I would say I feel like they have some pricing on some of these that are more reasonable, and they still look just as good. I sent to Chris an R2 that I believe was $160. And it was 1/6 scale, but it was so detailed that it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You sent this to Chris?
Well, this was back in the day
as a gift?
Before I realized who was actually carrying this podcast, and it was three of us and not Chris. And
before
I sent him this
droid this year?
Gift.
Before the dark times.
Before the Ryan and Sam.
I must have picked the short straw for Secret Santa, because Sam just got me a Magic 8 Ball.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that one clean?
I mean, we didn't keep.
Yeah, hold on. In 3, 2, 1. I sure picked the short straw for the Secret Santa because Sam just got me a Magic 8 Ball.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Mike. No, I thank you again for that.
I wasn't fishing for a thank you. I mean, I never got one before.
You're getting it. You're getting it.
Never got a thank you?
No, Chris never said a word.
I literally just texted him. I didn't know it was from him. So first off, it was just surprise and
Chris
delight.
Just said that was from you?
It was surprise and delight, but then for about a year,
I'm like a retailer.
I was like, "What is this? What is this box?" And I didn't even open the box, and I didn't even know what. I'm just kidding. No, it was very, very nice of you.
Chris
very sweet of you.
It was a gift for him as an influencer.
Yeah, I was like, Lucasfilm? What? You didn't have to do that, George. It is one of my prized possessions. I have a little dedicated shelf space that he's going to go next to the remote control BB-8 that I'm planning. So,
I thought it was going to stop at remote control. I was like, wow. Jeez, Chris. Going right next to my remote control.
Remote control. It has The one accessory that I think is amazing with it is it has a little drink cart thing that you can put on top of it.
It has the one from Jabba's sail barge.
It is a prized possession.
So you got him the saddest of all the R2s.
We don't know if he might have been happy.
But I mean, honestly, their 1/6 scale is priced, I wouldn't say reasonably, but much more reasonably than. And now I'm looking at him right now. I'm going to buy myself a 1/6 scale Luke from Last Jedi in his Octo.
It's all relative.
Dude,
it's
I was
like
looking
New York
at that.
City.
I had the Luke from Last Jedi Octo up for like the longest time, and then they also have his projected self.
Oh my god!
They do.
I was just like, oh my god, they're so gorgeous.
If I'm going to buy a joke gift for anybody, I'm sending you all Wayfinder necklaces. Wow. All right. Well, anyway, as we return,
hey guys, how's the episode going? Is it fun listening to us online shop?
Sam, you didn't mention
thinking about getting a surge protector.
If I was distracted, it's because I was sending my brother the life-size Yoda figure, saying, "You should buy this. You should really buy this."
Sam, we didn't get your thoughts on a purchase of Baby Yoda. On why you
didn't buy one. Probably won't. I don't know. I don't really want one.
Wow. After this, the way that Chris and Ryan sold it to you, it changed their lives.
I don't really want one. I think I'm all right. Maybe you know what? I'll tell you what. Maybe I'll do a painting of Baby Yoda or something.
Ooh.
He's very cute. I love Baby Yoda. I'll tell you what. If I were, I'm in the same boat as you guys, where it's like, you know, this is just a little bit too much money to pull the trigger on, especially right now with, you know, there's just a lot going on, and I think everybody's feeling a little unsettled and, you know, not as secure as maybe they did a few months ago in their income. So I probably won't be buying anything, but I think if I were going to, I would, from the show, I'd probably just want the Mando, like, figure, because I think that I just love the iconography of the Mandalorian. And then, but of all the things Star Wars that I don't even think they have it anymore, but there was like one of the statue maquettes of, it was called Mythos Obi-Wan, and it was an Obi-Wan on Tatooine from, like, you know, this was before they announced an Obi-Wan series, so it was from, you know, the years between the prequels and A New Hope. Some people call it Star Wars.
I'm looking at it right now.
And the Mythos maquette specifically had, like, the coolest design, the best, like, windblown hair, and it looked like a perfect mix of Ewan and Alec Guinness. And I wanted it so bad, and it was really expensive, and that would be my holy grail of collectibles, probably, for Star Wars.
It's still
Chris,
there. Hey,
is it still available?
Sam really took the wind out of our Baby Yoda sales.
Yeah, our Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I don't really want one.
No, I don't want one.
You know what?
He's like the girl at the lunch table. It's like, why are we talking about this?
Why are we talking about this?
This is random.
I think,
so random, guys.
I guess now that you point out the flaws of the Baby Yoda, it's a 1-to-1 scale, the one I have, but it doesn't fit in my 2-times scale Falcon. So it's not even the same material. The Falcon's built out of Legos. Baby Yoda's built out of, I don't know, chalk or something.
So the legend of the Lego Falcon is ballooned to 2-times scale.
Yes.
It is twice the size of the one in the movie.
Yes, exactly. Made out of Legos.
So you feel like a child when you're on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have that.
He has to rent out 2 hangars at Teterboro just to put it in.
Yeah. I got a Lowell working on it right now.
Yes.
Hey, your Falcon broke.
He's living in
I had to bypass the converter.
Yeah, well, I had to bypass the converter.
Oh, that's like what I said.
I was just doing it in your
You're
role.
just perfecting it.
That was just.
Do you think sometimes, like,
friends.
Han would show up and he would say Joe? He'd be like Joe Hackett, but no, it's Han.
Yeah, he gets them all mixed up.
They're the Skywalker siblings.
All right. Well, we've talked about it. Get Baby Yoda. If you were looking for one, I'm sure you can still find one out there. I'll probably pre-order a new edition because they took so long to get here in the first place. But I'm the way Chris and Ryan have been talking about it, I actually think I might be now in the market for one. If it's under $30, why not?
I mean, the way Sam's talking about it, why are any of us doing anything? You know.
So, news from around the Star Wars production side of things. And, of course, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, DroidsPod, droidspod@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube, DroidsPod, the Twitch channel as well. We're doing lives there also. And be sure to get a chance, rate and review us on iTunes and get one of those custom Sam paintings coming your way. We've got one for Little Gray Bunny. Little Gray Bunny also had some suggestions for us on what topics we might cover now that we're done with Duel of the Fates. So we might come back to that in a future episode. But let's start with the news. Taika Waititi will be directing a feature-length theatrical film. Got to say theatrical, because otherwise people would think it would be going streaming. And Leslye Headland from Russian Doll will be taking on a series. So that's the two big pieces of news. Let's start with Taika Waititi. I'm thrilled about this. I can't say there's been a film that he's done or a production he's been involved in that I haven't loved. I think there's some debate about whether or not his writing is as good as maybe some other writer-directors out there, but I feel like he balances the comedy and the motion so well. And The Mandalorian, the finale of Season 1 of The Mandalorian, directed by him, I think was a great example of that. I don't know that I felt as emotional or laughed as much as I did in that episode between the early scene with the Scout Troopers and then IG-11. But then IG-11 Sacrifice, I think, was maybe my most emotional part, other than when Baby Yoda was on the dirt in the prior episode after Queel was shot. So I'd say I think he really knows how to balance that. I love Jojo Rabbit. I love Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows. I think his sense of humor can fit in very well with Star Wars. I think that, to use a term from Top Chef, he might need to edit himself a little bit, because if those bits go a little bit too long and feel a little bit out, that might take you out of a Star Wars movie. But to be honest, I mean, he didn't overdo it in a movie that was about Nazi Germany, so I think he can balance it. I think he can make it work. I'm
also
excited.
Ragnarok, he kind of balanced that.
Yeah,
I
don't think I've ever laughed so hard in a movie theater as when Korg asks for clarification on your hammer pulled you off.
Oh my god!
I think that's one of the funniest jokes I've ever seen delivered on screen. It just killed me.
So Mike, the
also Rhys Darby in Star Wars is what I'm waiting for.
Oh my gosh!
Mike, the editing that you're talking about, I agree with you. So that opening scene of the last episode of The Mandalorian, where the two stormtroopers are being very bantery, while it's enjoyable, it's this thing where I'm like, this has gone on too long. It's kind of breaking the world, whatever. But I think that's a half-hour show. I think that episode was probably 40 minutes or something like that. But I think that when he has a bigger canvas, like in Thor Ragnarok, that he can kind of even that out by putting things like that throughout it, as opposed to this big chunk at the beginning that just kind of seems out of place.
Yeah.
I think that will help with that kind of thing, because it is I love him as a director also, and even that moment, it's moment to moment enjoyable. It's not, I don't have a problem with that scene. It's very enjoyable, but if I'm looking at it from a narrative standpoint, okay, it's a little much. But I think that him having an entire movie, and I think he's also a director that you can notably see his growth as his movies have gone on. Yeah. I think that What We Do in the Shadows is just kind of hysterical, and Hunt for the Wilder People is very different kind of movie. Thor Ragnarok is a little shaggy, but I adore it. And then I think by Jojo Rabbit, he had honed in on this, obviously it's different material, but that movie has this perfect balance of comedy and true emotion.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it'll bring something. I'm hoping that Star Wars will come to meet him as opposed to him coming to meet Star Wars. Because I think we've had enough of that kind of people trying to imitate the originals.
Yeah, I think what I kind of see here is this is kind of the realized version of when Marvel was trying to get an Edgar Wright movie with Ant-Man. I feel when that was happening, it was just Edgar Wright had too much of his own style. Marvel was a little kind of, I guess, maybe a little afraid to kind of go towards that. And I think Taika Waititi has a similar kind of trajectory, in his movies, there's kind of a thing to them, you can tell there's kind of repeating themes and repeating types of characters and things like that. And I think this is a realized version of that, where they were kind of okay, well, it worked with Thor Ragnarok, we let this guy kind of put his own spin on things. And I think for most intents and purposes, I think Thor Ragnarok is probably the most unique and creative of all the Marvel movies. And it worked wonderfully. It's such a fun, bizarre, weird thing, and I hope that he can bring that to Star Wars. I think he comes from also like a generation of like filmmakers and pop culture commentators that are like that. Like Star Wars was kind of, they were kind of being born in a post Star Wars world. I don't know how old he is. I think he's probably like 40.
He's older than Star Wars for sure.
Oh, he is.
He was probably young when it came out.
Yeah. And I think
he was born in 1975, so
okay, so he was 2 years old. So like basically he was kind of coming of age in a time when
Star Wars
when Star Wars had already existed, and I think there's like we haven't really seen a ton from that generation really, like in the sense
with the exception
that,
of
like,
Ryan, because Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Ryan,
Ryan Johnson and Gareth Edwards, like they both had it, but I think now to kind of let this guy like who's a little more in like underground, I guess, I don't know. I guess Ryan Johnson though is pretty as independent as you get. I
think that Taika, speaking to what you're saying, Taika has this balance as like a creator where he cares deeply about the things that he's making. You can tell by like how they come out, but he's also irreverent. Like he doesn't care.
I think that's what I was trying to get at. It's like he has this kind of like punk attitude towards filmmaking.
Yes.
That I don't.
Yeah,
think...
he's a little anarchic. He's like, if I'm going to use the S word here, but it's like he cares deeply, but he also doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like I think that's this perfect balance for where they need to go forward with Star Wars, because it's like you need someone who cares deeply about the piece that they're making, but also is willing to throw away the things that they don't care about.
Yes, exactly.
And like kind of be a little punk rock with it, like you said.
Yes.
Well, I think the other thing to take into account is like on the business side of it, because I think artistically everything you guys are saying is dead on, and I'm excited for I'm anticipating there will be a heavier weighting to the comedy than we've seen. Even I found The Last Jedi very funny at points. I think Rian Johnson's sense of humor is great, but like this will be like I think more humor than we've seen in a Star Wars before, and I think why not? That sounds like a blast. That'll be really fun.
Yeah.
But
and
then,
weird, like his humor is weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah,
but,
it's weird.
But also, you have to remember too that like he, Disney's perception of him is this guy who's like he's got a string of hits. He's a solid filmmaker. He's growing, and he like fixed a franchise for them and made a ton of money that they've carried forward with. It's like once he cracked Thor. That was what then the Russos did with Thor on the biggest movies of all time, and then they gave him another Thor follow-up because he's like, I got another story, I can do it. And so, there is this perception of like this question that I'm sure is being asked at Disney and Lucasfilm of like, did we lose our way a little bit, and where? Because we've got fans who hate The Last Jedi. We've got fans who hate The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker didn't do the box we wanted it to.
They made a sequel to The Last Jedi,
and it's getting like kind of lambasted on the internet right now in terms of like this just doesn't hang together. The sequels are unfortunately now, for kind of everybody who's a fan, a mixed bag, right? Like because nobody likes all three of them. And so I think
there are
if you're
people
looking
who like
at
all
that
three of them,
and you're trying to say
they don't want to admit anything,
like what what do we do now? What do we do with this franchise that feels a little muddy, maybe not as strong as it could?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to the guy who did that with
really
Thor.
Good point. They're looking for the guy who they're getting the guy that they're like, he turned Thor 3 essentially into Thor 1.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they're like, we had already made our money, and now they're like kind of restarting Thor without restarting him, where they're like, it's refreshed. Now we can do like a fourth Thor movie that feels like a second Thor movie.
I mean, Downey's out, Evans is out. I mean, we don't know for sure, but like Ruffalo's probably out, Johansson's out. Like all the main people are like, we're done with Avengers. That was a blast. And then like Hemsworth is like, I mean, with this guy, I'll do more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's
like,
I feel
such a
refreshed.
blast.
I'll keep doing it.
Him and Goldblum. I think. I agree. I think this might be kind of the shift of like, let's turn Star Wars a little weird again. Let's get into the strangeness. I know we saw that with Last Jedi to a certain degree, where it was like we started to embrace the strangeness. Maybe the kind of the mainstream wasn't ready for that. I think it kind of goes back to that thesis of like you being a fan of Star Wars as a movie, or you being a fan of Star Wars as a universe. And I think Waititi fits in the universal appeal, I think. And I think that's why it's like a very good fit.
I love what all of you are saying, The Rise of Skywalker tells me they're not going to be weird. They're not going to let it be weird. I mean, like, I think Taika will allow to have his...
It didn't make enough money.
But I think
they'll pivot.
I think
Mandalorian. I think Mandalorian is a kind of a sign of that as well. I mean, I think Mandalorian has some of this kind of sci-fi channel-esque quality of strangeness in it.
What would you say was the strangest part of it? Because to me, it felt like it was very much like strange in a palatable, broad way.
I don't know specifics at this moment. Like the episode when they're I forget her name. What's the character's name?
Cara?
Gina Carano? The Gina Carano character?
Cara
yeah.
Dune?
Yeah. So like that episode, I think that had that kind of sci-fi, like I imagine as an audience member for like a mainstream audience watching it, they'd probably be like, this is getting a little too out there for me. Like this is like they're on a new planet. You know what I mean? Like it had these kind of elements of this is an episode of Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh
like,
yeah, that's fair.
This is kind of like the disconnection or Conan the Barbarian. Was it the New Adventures of Conan? Was that with Kevin Sorbo? Yeah, like it had
Hercules.
Hercules. New Adventures of Superman.
I guess
I wasn't quoting the Nutty Professor there.
Hercules. But that's the idea, though, is that I think they're gonna have to tone it down a little bit. The fact that they're putting a lot of their eggs in the kind of the comic book realm as well, like that's as it's not as a mainstream medium, except other than our Marvel heroes. I think that's not as mainstream a medium to tell these stories. So I think they might be a little more low key with kind of the mainstream pop culture aspects of Star Wars.
Also, this is worth noting that with the 3 Star Wars properties that we know are coming up, which is the Obi-Wan series, the Leslye Headland series, and the Taika movie, those are basically all that's on the docket for
Cassian
right
Andor.
now. Cassian Andor. I forgot. And who's leading that?
Isn't it Tony
Is that
Gilroy?
Tony Gilroy? Okay,
friggin' Tony Gilroy.
Let's say 3. So I'll say for the
Can't
4
wait to hear him on Koppelman's podcast talking about
my
how
God.
he broke that story.
So for the 4 Star Wars properties that we know are coming up in like TV and movies, 3 out of the 4 of them are not helmed by white men, which is like the step that we've been asking, not just us, that like, the world has been asking Lucasfilm to do, which is like, can you please get some diversity behind the camera? Obviously, The Mandalorian was a step. There were people who were not white men who helmed like episodes, but in terms of like creative leads of entire series and movies, this is like the first time they've done that, and it's far too late for them to have done that. But it's like we need to move forward, get some diverse voices in there, please. And it's like maybe the hopeful part of me is that maybe that will finally happen, but we'll see, because Lucasfilm has a tendency to replace directors with Ron Howard.
Yeah,
it is crazy to think that we're kind of in like, this is the start of like, if we're gonna put it in Marvel terms, like this is phase 2. Like we've already gone through phase 1. Like the initial plan is done. Like this is, now we are in this kind of unknown territory.
Yeah. And I think after Rise of Skywalker, a lot of us, or at least I felt like, where I was like, I thought we were in phase 2, and then I kind of found out we were still in phase 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I thought that we were in phase 1.5, I should say.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, this is going to be the handoff, and then episode 9 was like, no, give it back. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is like a clean break, like with the Thor movies, where it's like the 4th Thor movie will be this clean break from the Marvel, like it'll move forward.
They're just going to give Luke an eye patch.
Oh my God.
I've lost so much faith in Disney and Lucasfilm after The Rise of Skywalker. I just can't believe they released that film, that they made that film. And to me, that makes me just be like, what could possibly be next? What are they going to do?
Right.
I'm more excited that they're just maybe getting back to, and this is obviously with the history maybe not accurate, but letting someone who has a unique creative voice go out and make something. They didn't do that with a lot of the things they've done in the past 5 years. But I think now that they're past the Skywalker saga, they can be a little bit less precious with things and let somebody do their own thing, because they know that they don't have a future here unless they start to allow stories to go beyond what we know. So you have a little bit more freedom. And as you said, Sam, the other thing is the comfort level. there's irreverence, there's a little bit of riskiness. He doesn't give a shit in a lot of ways in Taika. However, he has hit timelines, he's hit deadlines, he shot things the way they wanted with Thor and The Mandalorian. They know they're working with someone who can make the movie that they, not necessarily they want, but will be able to make it within the schedule that they want, that they know who they can count on, who's not going to go in and maybe do things differently like some of the directors that they've worked with, which now I'm feeding into a story that we've been told. We don't know whether or not Lord and Miller were actually as difficult as they're perceived to be, or if Gareth was as bad as whatever they're putting out there. But either way, we know that he can get the job done on putting together a quality film. They know that too. So they're making a choice of, here's a new voice that we can count on and know the production will get done. And that's
you also have,
and what's exciting for an audience is that, like we've been saying, he has this air of mischief about him, where there's this piece, like he's now made. He's slated to make 3 movies. This will be his 3rd movie at Disney. So it's like, for all intents and purposes, he could be seen as a company man. Yeah. But like at the same time, it's like there seems to be this attitude where you could conceivably see him being like, I could do more damage from the inside than the outside.
yeah. I mean,
also,
like
where it's just like him. He's. Yeah, like people love fans, working with him.
Like people, but also fans love him. There's not the Rian Johnson baggage. There's not the J.J. Abrams baggage.
Yeah.
There's not like the stuff you get with certain people where it's like fans are like, oh, I hate that guy. Like everybody, everybody loves Taika Waititi.
He ruined Thor.
He's just a
that's not my Thor.
He's just a genuinely like funny person. He used to do stand up. I guess like he knows the business from many perspectives. And I think as far as like a technical level, like. Talk about getting somebody that has like experience. I mean, he made Thor. That's no small technical feat, that movie. Like that's a very complicated movie. And then even Jojo Rabbit and What We Do with the Shadows to a certain degree, it's like those movies are very technically like able. And I think that like getting a director like that for Star Wars it's like a double threat, that he's a good storyteller and he also understands these movies on a technical level that like they didn't. I think Star Wars didn't really have a director of that degree.
Yeah. I will say one thing, though, and I hate to be pessimistic. I do think the hate will find him, as in he's going to make a smart film, likely with some progressive ideas, and so the hate will find him. And
look at how much people freaked out about. Like, there were people who were furious about the opening of that Mandalorian episode. Like, I had my criticisms, but there were people who were, like, so mad about it. So it's like it's inevitable, but whatever.
It sounded like old Cheeve got on our call. The hate will find you.
No, that's what I was thinking.
I know. I hear you.
I wish I could do the voice.
I also really hope that he's in it because he's often the best parts of his.
Yes.
Well, if anybody's followed our Twitter account, it's a story of Palpatines and Skywalkers. There's only one Palpatine on the post.
I'm with Sam though. I want to see a Rhys Darby get in there and just obliterate a situation with just misunderstanding what's going on and asking questions. I think that's the funniest thing Rhys Darby can do.
Do you think he'll be in like a cantina owner or something?
Buffoonery.
Oh no, he'll have some hunk of junk ship that he's gonna transport everybody across the galaxy.
He says it's great. Yeah. Oh, what if it's in the future and his hunk of junk ship is the Falcon?
I just hope that with the exciting creators that they have lined up at Lucasfilm, because they have a history of hiring exciting creators and then balking.
yeah.
And it's just just stick with it. And maybe after The Rise of Skywalker, maybe they got an era of there's like, we can't do anything right. We might as well do something interesting.
Yep.
And like that might be the best place for us to be. Because like maybe they'll just be like, I don't know. I can't predict this stuff. Just make your movie.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Leslye Headland. We actually talked about Leslye Headland in a previous episode where we talked a little bit more about what we thought of Russian Doll. We heard a quote from her, and a little bit we learned, she is the real deal in terms of being someone who falls in the camp of loving Star Wars, not just Star Wars the movie. And Ryan, you pointed this out to us, that she's shown her dedication.
Yeah, she got a tattoo of Leia on her hand, but it's not just Leia, it's Ralph McQuarrie's original concept art for Leia. She posted it on Instagram and said that she's been wanting to get it for years. So it's like, if people need proof that someone's a real deal Star Wars fan, I mean, that's it. I don't think that someone needs to prove that, but it's a beautiful piece too. It's like amazing.
The proof isn't necessary. I said, she's shown her dedication. Obviously, we don't require any future directors
Yeah,
to
like-
show their
Yeah, we're not
Right.
like gatekeepers.
And
It could be interesting if someone who isn't a Star Wars fan makes a Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
unless they're Tony Gilroy, in which case they're really obnoxious about it.
And I got on my hand, I got a Ralph Macchio designed Millennium Falcon on my hand. It doesn't look right,
Wow.
but he drew it, so
You went out to Long Island. You met with Macchio, huh?
yeah, he was out there. I had some moves to learn, so
Well, I'm very excited. I guess right now I'm also just kind of like, when is this going to happen? When do we get real production again?
Yeah.
When do things start up so we can feel like there are movies on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm wondering when I could go to the coffee shop. It's like
Well,
I don't know when they're going to make the Star Wars movie.
but the thing is like there is word for what happened with The Mandalorian. You could do some stuff with lesser crew.
Yeah,
You could do
the
some
volume.
stuff with a limited. I mean,
just look at the volume.
I don't know. I don't want to ask anybody though. Like I get what you're saying, Mike. That like like it's in some way feasible, and as fans we want that. But it's like I don't know. I'm just so like I wouldn't want to be asked to go anywhere right now.
oh,
As,
I agree,
but,
Sam.
Like by my job, so it's like I don't.
It's
As
double
much as
edged.
I want that, I don't want that.
Sam, if
Like,
you want
I
to
was
stay on
really
this pod, you will
disheartened,
drive
like,
and get Ryan a piece of coffee. Go
now. They delayed the release of James Bond once. I don't
Oh,
know if it'll
this
be
is- I
actually
see what
coming
this-
out in
I
November.
see what this
They delayed the production of the Batman, which
Yep,
bummed me
okay.
out. It's like
Yep.
all the Star Wars movies are
Yeah.
delayed, and
Well, I think-
TV
yeah.
shows and stuff. So it's like I get it, but I also I don't know. I'm just so
Well, here's the
I'm
thing,
so
the
tired
droids
of
want
like
everyone
figuring
to be
out
safe.
ways we could do it.
Yeah,
You know.
be safe.
Yeah,
I think
like
if
everybody, we want everybody to be safe. We'll wait until it's safe, and then once it's safe, where are all the movies?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's if the minute this is all safe for us to go outside, if the movies aren't here, I'll be mad.
Well, also, I mean, if there's going to be
If I don't find out that you were secretly producing things while I was hoping you were being safe, but you were actually out there making movies, I'll be upset.
If there's a company though to figure out how to kind of crack this technical hurdle of physically not being there, I mean, we're dealing with the best one to figure this out. Lucasfilm.
I mean,
Disney
Lucasfilm
and-
has been trying to find ways to make movies without people for years.
for years. I mean, we all laughed
So
at
is
George's
George.
green. Yeah, we all laughed at George's just green sets, but now they're looking pretty good. I think when he's moving people 3 inches to the left in a frame with a computer, everyone's like, "Why would you ever want to do that?" You're like, "Well,
And he just went, well, germs are coming. There's going to be germs, and I still want
knew.
movies, so
Yeah.
I got to make
He knew.
germless movies.
in all
He
in
knew.
all seriousness though, if say there's a vaccine 6 months, we all can go back to the movie theaters and go. I think it could be a really exciting time for 8 months or so or whatever of releasing all of this back catalog of film and being like, opening this weekend is The Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back, and everybody
Oh,
gets to
that'd
go
be
and
fun.
see them on the big screen, and
Yeah.
it would become a draw because there's a lot of other things people would want to go back do, but there'd be enough people who'd want to go see movies
Yeah.
again. And I think it would be
Yeah.
very exciting to see these things on the big
Yeah.
screen that
I
have
would-
been
I would-
kept off the big screen.
100%."
Oh my god! If they announced
Yeah.
that it was only safe to go to the movies if you were going to see Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie this weekend, it would make $2 billion.
Hey! The bigger they are, the faster they burn.
I
And we
forgot
do
about
we
that
do not
line.
mean to give short conversation to Leslye Headland. We had a longer conversation about her and Russian Doll in a previous episode. Please go back and find that because
Yeah.
we are very excited about what she's doing.
And her movies, Sleeping with Other People and Bachelorette, are both really great. I mean, they're like, if there are kids here, they're a little more adult, those movies, but they're really, she's a playwright. She's awesome. She's the real deal.
Yeah. And then also worth mentioning, Disney kind of released a lot of information about upcoming directors of The Mandalorian. We got Robert Rodriguez and Payton Reed
Cool.
of Ant-Man. So,
and Dave
Robert
Filoni-
Rodriguez.
also another green screen director.
Robert Rodriguez is
Robert
like
Rodriguez has not made an interesting thing in ever.
Spy Kids?
Is that when you say an interesting movie? Is that the one you want to bring up?
What was his Grindhouse one?
They made a lot of them.
Planet Terror, which I
Planet
enjoy.
Terror.
He makes like some fun movies.
I
But,
like
I mean,
Planet Terror.
Alita Battle Angel. Sam and I saw that together. Or wait, was it Sam or Chris? Or were we all there?
What's that?
Alita Battle Angel. Woof. Oh my
Oh,
God.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot he made that. I
What a
love that
mess.
movie.
Man, oh man.
I do think there's something, there is the only thing I can kind of go back to is like as a kid, Desperado was so different and fun which was
I
obviously
watched it every night for a summer.
It's obviously a remake of his, El Mariachi, but like to me, I'm like, I could see them wanting him for like that type of an episode of Mando, of like, hey, can you do like a really like fun kind of like bonkers, like over the top actiony comedy, Western type thing, because that's what those, and
we know Johnny Depp's gonna be in it.
Oh boy.
Maybe George Clooney will do a cameo on an iPad.
I mean, Trejo's got to be in it, right?
Danny.
That's true. And that's awesome.
Antonio Banderas, maybe? Yeah.
Trejo should be in it, and he should have been in Star Wars a long time ago.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing about Robert Rodriguez. He made a movie called 100 Years, secretly with John Malkovich, that they made and completed, and it's not to be released until the year 2115.
Well, that's it. There we go.
So they made a movie. It's just called. It's like the movie you'll never see. Yeah, the movie you will never see. It's like making us all face the fact that we'll die. But so in 2115 they could find out that it's really underwhelming and that he's not that great of a director.
That's really a good way to kind of manage that conversation.
Yeah. Man, this must be how they made movies back then, with with virtually no female characters and just violent, huh?
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Droids. We're excited about the upcoming projects. Well, tune back in. Of course, we're going to be doing some more live watches of classic Star Wars features and maybe make our way through the entire catalog. Maybe we'll decide to watch all of them in one night. We could do that as well. But we have been very happy to get back to a regular Star Wars conversation. Just always such a pleasure to take a step out of our current world and live in the Star Wars universe with all of you fine folks.
Baby Yoda, you want to say goodbye? You want to say goodbye, Baby Yoda? Baby Yoda? Oh, he's being shy. He's being shy. We'll get him next time.
Okay, I'm going to buy one.
Yeah, we got
it. All right.
Yeah.
It'll arrive in 7 months. much like a real baby. I mean, yeah, a real baby. It's 7 months and they're done.
Well, I think it's worth noting that the creepiest part of all of this is that you actually have a 50-year-old doll.
It's true.
It's not really.
And I'm just kidding. I know it doesn't take 7 months to make a baby.
Nah.
Who would wait that long?
So all the things that we're saying are incorrect. It's not a baby. It's not Yoda.
What they Annie?
There you go. Okay.
There's much.
And the gestational period of a human baby is not 7 months.
Well, I mean, in some cases.
There we go.
Yeah, it could be, but it's not. It's not what you're shooting for.
No,
you're shooting for 4 or 5.
We ended a while ago. We ended a while ago.
The show. Well, I mean, if we're going by that measure, the show ended years ago.